TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the channel, folks. Good to see you. We're having an issue now. We're making sure that we're going live before we go live, because there's been a couple of shows that we've pressed the button, folks, and we haven't gone live. So I can clearly see Hugh. We're live. Thank you, Hugh, for joining us, brother.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome. And we've got the Rock Professor again after 4 years doing rookie mistakes. My gosh.
leaving the volume up on his iPad while he's monitoring the chat. Oh!
Good to see you, Simon. Good to see you, Hugh. You guys are awesome. Yes. We're going to obviously rank an incredible album, Hugh. So obviously you're going to talk about that in the intro, but we do look forward to that, and we're going to tell some stories, no doubt. But we've got a couple of shout-outs that we want to do, obviously, Simon, before we start the show. I suppose the first thing that we need to do on the show is say hi to our brother, to the backdoor man, and
the
traveller, and wish him well. If you guys are following him on social media, you'll be up to play with a few of the things that he's doing. If you haven't followed him on social media, there he is there, and the Rock Professor as well. So you can find them both there, Brad Cook Music and the Rock Professor at Simon Williams 33. Good to see you, Simon.
Yeah. Well, it's been another week.
We had last week off.
I know. I didn't know what to do with myself. No. So you know, inevitably you go out and buy some things, don't you? So my Springsteen concert of the Cardiff, the one I went to, arrived this week. That's really cool.
Fantastic.
I think it's a really good business model. That you can buy the concert you went to. I bought it on CD because I'm old, but you can get it as flax and all sorts of things, you know, all sorts of different formats. You want awesome. It's a fantastic business model that you can, from the artist, you know, this is not a bootleg, this is a feel from the artist, you can buy the concert you went to. I think that's pretty cool myself, whoever that might be. You know, it'd be great, isn't it, if you go and see your favorite band and you can buy the gig you went to. I know people have done it on sticks.
Yeah, especially I've been to quite a few amazing concerts over the last 10 years, say, and I can think at least 5 that I would love to have had the CD. Yeah.
Can you imagine if because Jim and Brad both went to see Eric Clapton in the Albert Hall? You know, it'd be great if you just go onto Eric's website and order you know, a night of that, you know, a night or two. Yeah. I think that would be fantastic. You know, I know you can see like multi-cam shots of it and all that kind of gear, but if you're me, you're kind of traversing around listening to, you know, music quite a lot on the hoof, and you know, to have the CDs. I've still got a CD player in my car, but which is fantastic, you know, because you know, if we're doing, you know, music CD, you know, for the week or whatever, and I happen to have it, I could play it in the car. It's an ideal place to play stuff. You really get your head around. Yeah. So hats off to Bruce for a really excellent business model. I hope other bands take notice and take it on.
I used to drive around Glasgow at midnight listening to the Asia album by Steely Dan.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic fun, isn't it? Yeah. Gives it an atmosphere, doesn't it? It gives it a real atmosphere.
Totally.
Yeah. So that shout out to that. We should also, as we're talking about Jazz Thunder 50, Jim, who came on the show a couple of weeks ago, did Eric Clapton, Derek and the Dominos live. That's got over 600 views, so that's doing really well for us. So fantastic work, Jim. Great stuff. That's really cool. And we're also going to shout out to our old mate, the Great Vanzini, who has finally reached 1,000 subscribers. So congratulate. He's been hanging on the 999 this week. I've been looking at it. It's like teetering. So congratulations, Greg Bandini. That's fantastic. Oh, there he is. Look, he's arrived in the chat. Bang on time. Must have been listening. Congratulations, Greg Bandini. That's fantastic to reach 1,000 subscribers. We hope it brings you much riches.
Well done.
Or
and
not.
He's been on the channel. He's done a couple of shows with us as well too, folks. So
lovely
if you're
man.
bored, if you're bored and you want to check out what's on the channel, we've got 780 odd videos on our channel for you to go and have a look. And if you do follow us on social media, you would have noticed that I posted a video of an interview that we did with Ramon Goose 4 years ago on the channel.
Yes,
so go and check that out, folks. We were lucky to have Ramon, and we're working on getting Ramon back on the channel to talk about his JTM 45 build, Hugh, that he's going to do. He's going to use period pieces from the 1960s to build an replica JDM 45.
Oh, fantastic. Oh,
yeah, that sounds great. I've got a lot of time for Ramon. Great guitar player. Love the shows he does with Bob.
Yeah. And we've been fortunate, Simon, to have Bob on the show too. So you know, good guys, and people who enjoy just hanging out with guys like us, Simon and Hugh, just ordinary fellows.
And we should say that Jim has got 968 subscribers, so he only needs 32 more to get to his 1,000. So if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to Jim, please subscribe to Jim, and please subscribe to us.
Yes,
it's free.
I was lucky enough.
Just press the button.
I was lucky enough to I cracked 600 just the last week there, which I never thought I'd get that much.
Well done, Hugh, and we're going to put your link in here too. Obviously, we want you to go and follow Hugh as well. Hugh is a prolific uploader of collaboration videos and music pieces. I'm going to put up a link of one that he just put onto his channel called Ride Me Home, and go and check this out. I'm going to put that link in the post.
PG warning on that one.
Oh, it's all right. It's okay.
Oh, Hugh, blimey. I've got to watch it now.
Hey, we won't see the Rock Professor for 2 hours. Rock Professor, we don't quite have 10 people here, but it's probably a good time for you anyways to do a shout out, and we'll get Hugh to kick the show off. What do you reckon?
It's a good idea. So good morning to Christopher, live sober. Morning, Chris. Nelson Rodriguez, as ever. Gret Zeppelin, Phil Byers. Morning, you guys. John ZD 351. Morning, John. Looking forward to next week.
Hey, bro. Yep.
Be on it. Anthony Bowen as well. Morning, Anthony. Good to see you.
Anthony.
Yes. Great Manzini. Good morning, Great Manzini. Thank you for staying up. And Arvin as well. Arvin Gords. Great to see you, Arvin, as well. Gret Zeppelin. Yeah, I think that's everybody who's made a comment. So good morning to you all. That's fantastic. And on with the show.
Awesome. I invite you folks to go and subscribe to Anthony Bowen's channel as well. He's a friend of Jim's who joined us last week, and he's got an Instagram channel as well. And Anthony is a Eric Clapton nut as well, and he's got a lot of content on his channel as well, Simon and Hugh. So we're all about collaboration here, Simon, aren't we? We're all about sharing.
Oh, we are absolutely all about sharing and collaborating, and and Hugh, comes on from time to time, does a show with us. Jim, it's I think it's, and John as well. I think it's really great to get you guys on, and because we've got a structure that you know how it works. If you watch the show, you know exactly how it works, because every show works the same. If people want to come on with an album they like, they want to do, right? We're in.
Yep.
Easy peasy. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, and that goes for Arvin, who's been with us right from the word go.
Yes, Arvin.
You guys know that. You guys always have a permanent invitation to join us. So, Yeah. This is your perfect opportunity because we've still got how many weeks before the Backdoor Man gets back, Simon? About another 3-4
about another
weeks.
3 or 4 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So we'll be press ganging Hugh back for another show, and Jim, and maybe John, and we'll see how we go. But
Was it?
it's
Hold
if
on,
anybody
remember
else
some,
wants,
who was it that said a couple of years, was it a couple of years back? You might run out of albums to review. Remember?
yes, I know.
yeah,
Yes, somebody. Yeah, did you think we'll run out of albums soon? Oh. Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
What are you guys going to do when you run out of albums? It was like, seriously?
Yes, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to rest in our graves. That's what we're going to do. Because we're going to have to find. We're going to have to find stand-ins, Andrew. I'm going to have to find a stand-in. You know, somebody the rock professor junior.
I've got to do a quick shout out, Hugh, before you kick off the channel
Mark
to our
Tanner as
very,
well.
very
Morning,
good
Mark.
friend Mark Tanner, who's in the channel. So, talking about checking out channels, please go and check out Mark Tanner's channel. Another prolific uploader of videos. Good to see you, Mark.
Good mate of mine too. Mark's a top bloke.
Oh, yeah, top man.
He does fantastic stuff, and as well, I agree. Lots of it as well. Some covers and some original stuff. Really good, really individual, really good.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. I think we've done a pretty good intro. We just want to round this off, obviously, to our brother Brad. Continue having a safe, wonderful journey. We do appreciate the updates, and if you have not subscribed to Brad on Instagram, go and find him. It's easy. Brad Cook Music, at Brad Cook Music. I'll put a link to his Instagram channel while one of us is talking during the course of the show. Hugh, do you want to kick off the album, brother, that we're doing this week?
Sure. Well, this was posthumous. I can't even say the word. Posthumously. Still can't say it.
Posthumous.
Released album. Right. No, I'm not saying anymore. Came out in 1987. It was from 3 shows live at the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco on the 10th, 11th, and 12th, 1968. It was produced by Alan Douglas and Chip Taylor. Came out on Rykodisc in 1987. As I say, I think it's the first Hendrix release that was geared and actually mixed for CD. I may be wrong on that, but that's what I remember hearing at the time.
Yeah.
There's a cool pic.
Fantastic poster for it. That's the poster for it.
And when it was released, it sold more than any Hendrix album had sold in many years. So basically, I first came across the album, and that same year it came out when I went to a CD shop and actually bought it on cassette instead. And that was the same year I really got into Hendrix as well, because I remember going to a video store and renting the Live at Monterey, which had just come out on VHS. So that year I was deep diving into Mr. Jimi Hendrix. So this was one of the highlights I remember from that year, and that's it, basically.
Fantastic.
Cool. Yeah.
Simon.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, this is fairly new to me. I didn't have it at the time, and clearly it came out as a sort of, and as Hugh says, in '87, sold over 200,000 copies. So it kind of, it was a bit of a hit. Sold more than any other Jimi Hendrix recording had in years. And it got some pretty good reviews as well. I think the sound is pretty good. I think the sound is, sounds really good on my stereo and in my car. So I think that's a testament to the recording and what they did with it. But then they released, they released it with a, this 4 CD box set later on in 2011 and things, and if you go on Spotify now, you have to make this up, as a playlist, because it's quite difficult. It's not there on its own as a thing. I found a CD, so I bought it because for ease of, I listen to a lot of my music in the car, so it's easy to listen to it in the car with a CD. Less so if you've got to make a playlist. I'm faffing about. In the meantime, I don't have, sadly, but it's I've not come across it before, so it's been a real pleasure this week, Hugh, to dig into this album and get to know it, and as I said, the sound quality is really good. I think the performances are amazing. We'll get into that, but so yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Andrew, what about you? When did you go on? Go on.
I was just going to say, I can remember as well that this was, I think, about a month after Electric Ladyland came out. So, and they didn't play any of the songs from Electric Ladyland at this concert. You're still hearing his set from the previous 2 albums. Just at the height, I would say, of his early part of his career. So,
yeah. It is basically the first 2 albums, isn't it? It's the first 2 albums plus other bits and pieces. Yes, you're right. There isn't anything off that.
Sorry, Andrew.
Oh, no problem, bro. No problem. You got to make your way in this world, and you got to make your way in this show too. It's all good. I'm glad you guys asked this question, because I got this on CD around the time the Jimi Hendrix Blues album came out. I was going through a Jimi Hendrix crazy period, Simon. I think when you and I have ranked these Jimi Hendrix albums on the show before, I've mentioned this a few times. I just went through, and back then you could get a lot of stuff on CD. When was that? 94, 95 when that album came out, the Blues album came out. So I was pretty late to hear this compilation. But like a lot of people back then, and I suppose a lot of music fans now, we kind of loved getting our hands on live albums, didn't we? Because I think, a good live album was always going to be the pinnacle of whether or not the artist or the band was any good. And we probably had albums in the back of our minds, Hugh, that we were measuring other live albums with, as a criteria. But I was certainly blown away by this album. It was a favourite with a lot of my friends who were just casual fans of music, and also the Jimi Hendrix guys. And it was great to see that they brought out the 4 CD compilation. Simon, is it 4 CDs? If you get
it is,
the pack, or you can, as the rock professor said, go and make your own compilation, because it's on Spotify. But it's a fantastic compilation. The small one, Hugh, the small one that you're going to rank for us. But also, I will indeed invite you to go and check out, the full CD version or Spotify playlist, and get a full appreciation of how important and how onto it this band was. So, Hugh, I'm glad that you picked this, because I think there's some great numbers on here, and it's going to be probably boring with the schools, because we all know that the 3 of us are Hendrix fans, so there won't be any 5s. If you're watching for some 5s, you're not going to get it on this show.
There could be one, yeah.
Just building up dramatic tension. Is he really going to do a 5?
No, not on this album.
Yeah, that's the thumbnail, Andrew. That's the thumbnail. Does the rock professor give a 5? You have to watch to find out.
I might have to do that. Thank you, guys. And obviously in the chat, folks, if you can let us know, when you approach this album, and also give us your ranks, and we'll get Hugh to kick it off with the first track.
Okay, then. Straight in with the track number 1, which is Fire, which is a very early favourite from the Are You Experienced album. People always love that live because he stretches out on it a lot more than he does on the studio version. The whole band are cooking on gas straight from the start here.
Yeah.
Mitch is, as usual, he's pounding away like somebody from the Muppets. But yeah, I love Mitch. He's on form. Noah's steady as usual. Hendrix's guitar is on fire. He sounds inspired on fire. And I always loved the story about how that song came about. Apparently, it was at Noel Redding's mother's house one night, and it was like a cold northern evening, and he walked in, and she said to him, "Hello, Jimmy. Have a seat, my friend." And he went, "Is it okay if I stand next to your fire?" That's how he wrote the song. I love that.
Small
So
domestic
basic,
scene.
wee little thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just one of the inspired opening songs where really kicks the album off. You know it's going to be good. And Hendrix, he's pretty talkative, which is a good sign that he's going to play well. So it's a 10 out of 10 all day for me straight away.
Yeah, good score.
You forget how funny he is, don't you, Hugh? You forget that kind of dry voice that appears on it. Yeah. Apparently he used to introduce this song as "Let Me Stand Next to Your Old Lady." It was not very PC. It's quite funny as a good title. I think. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is the opening track does what it should do as an opening track. Introduces you to the band, introduces you to what you're going to get on this album, introduces you to what's going to happen. And I think that you've picked out the three bits, aren't you? Is that Mitch's wild drumming, which is very kind of jazzy. There's definitely jazz, lot of jazz stuff in there.
Oh yeah.
Clearly with he's in there with Ginger Baker and those guys who drew from the jazz tradition. And I think that's really important. I think that what's really good is that the bass is the kind of the anchor to it all, and the drums and the guitar are the sort of sparks, if you like, that fly off. And I think that it's only 3 minutes, so it's not that much different to the single I did a sort of recorded version.
Yeah.
Just say, kind of maybe a bit more solo, but that kind of wild and crazy funky guitar with a psychedelic edge to it, is what's going on here. Doing that mix of lead and rhythm stuff that Hendrix does better than most. Amazing kind of back and forth thing with it. That's amazing. And a couple of incendiary solos, and Hendrix, if nothing, if not incendiary, really, and when he's playing, and taking the blues into that kind of more rock territory. It's quite a sort of clearly the Marshalls are doing it. At one point on here, he complains about the Marshalls, doesn't he, saying that they've been caned to an inch of their life.
He's running out of tubes.
Yeah, running out of tubes, right? Yeah, so that's quite fun. It's and and I think that that this has all the bits that you're going to pick up on in the rest of the album. So 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Fantastic start to it. Andrew.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Hugh. Good to see Mark put in some jokes in the chat. Inside jokes. So obviously there's an inside joke going on between him and Great Vanzini. So always good. Look, Hugh, I think you're right about this version of the song, isn't it? It's I've written down this word here: frantic, phonetic, and fantastic. And you've nailed it with the drumming, guys. So I won't talk too much about the drumming in this section, other than it's on tune. It's just an unbelievable example of great 60s drummers. Go and check it out, especially the live components of what Mitch offers, and those rhythm chords that Jimmy does on this track. It's just fantastic, isn't it? It's just a great example of him. lots of times for us to talk about the lead, but you know, the rhythm chords that he's doing on this is fantastic. It's a showcase for Jimmy. It's cranked. Everything is cranked clearly on those Marshalls. 10 out of 10 for me, Hugh, as well, and it's never a skip. And consistent with what he started a lot of his gigs off with, I understand. So, no holds barred, Simon. Hugh.
Nope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, on with track number 2. Right, Mark.
Oh, okay, it's an inside joke between him
Yeah.
and you. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, on we go. Track number 2.
About having a sorry, about having a translator. Yeah. Is that the joke?
That's part of it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Even I need a translator for myself.
All right. Okay.
A Scotsman with a speech impediment. What more do you want? Anyway, yeah. Track 2 is Manic Depression, which is another song that came from his debut album, and another great one. It's in a very strange 9/8 time. Hendrix basically puts on a guitar clinic during this. Far exceeds the studio version, in my opinion. Mitch is amazing, given his jazz chops. Totally at home playing this kind of song. I think that the tone that Hendrix gets on this is why you would want to see Jimmy live. It's that it's really compressed Marshall, a loud volume that almost nobody else could handle, probably as well as him. So, Manic Depression, the live version is fantastic. Another 10 for me.
Yeah, gotta be.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right, Hugh, and we should say, isn't it, that tone that he gets is fantastic, isn't it? It's not. It's sometimes I always think of that Strat has that kind of glacial kind of clear kind of tone, but it's not so much. He's managed to get it under control, that, and kind of have quite a lot of mids to it, and some of the we'll get onto it later, but some of those the chord stuff that he does in some of the things, power chord stuff, just to me thrills me no end. The ability to get and it's a great lesson. You don't need hundreds of pedals. You don't need what you need is to work out how to drive these things properly, i.e. by turning them up to 7 or whatever. I don't think they did much more after 6 or 7 in terms of volume, but turn them up so you get them in the right place, and and then they sound absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Clearly, the other small bit of that is the talent which you have in your fingers to play.
Indeed.
I'm all about it. It amuses me. One day I'll buy an expensive guitar when my skills are commensurate with having an expensive guitar. Currently, the guitars I have outstrip my talents by a distance. So, this again is another great sort of second opening track, isn't it? It's got plenty of loads of energy, loads of drive to it. Fantastic drumming again, and that mixture of lead and rhythm playing. And I mean, I've used this expression about Jimmy before. I mean, the soloing is it's just beyond, isn't it? Clearly, it has a bluesy bass to it, but takes it, as you said, Hugh, takes it beyond that. He's amazingly kind of passionate. He's kind of wild, isn't it? It's kind of, I always feel with Hendrix that, unlike almost any other guitar player, there's a kind of wild, feral kind of bit, with a feedback, and and he's sort of, I don't know, he's riding some kind of crazy wild horse, but I think it's extraordinary that that the way he plays and the sound, and and it just and the kind of that sense of freedom and that sense of, there are no barriers to what I can do. I can play whatever I like and do whatever I want, and the feedback, the sounds, it's all part of it. It's all part of the palette
Absolutely.
that I've got.
Yeah.
And I find it endlessly inventive improvisation. Those things. We'll get on to those later. But again, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. It clearly stretches out a bit from the original, but still not too much. Still keeping it tight. 446 is keeping it tight. But this would be one of the tracks I'd play to Hendrix if you wanted one track to play to Hendrix. Say this is what he does. It's kind of, to me, this is kind of one of those tracks really which really punches through. So 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, I'm not going to add much to what you guys have said. Hugh's nailed it correctly. We've got Mark in the chat saying that it's a masterpiece of a track. And, I agree. It was certainly one of my favourite tracks that I heard. And to hear it live, Hugh, just gives it that extra dimension, and it's like, wow. Yeah. He's taking these studio tracks, Simon, and he's just putting them into another perspective. And then when you're a young guitar player and you're trying to work out and you're searching for tones, and then you realise, that he's just using, a fuzz pedal, any good fuzz pedal, crucial to a to a Hendrix tone, and also, a uni vibe, crucial, and a wah, which everyone knows what a wah is. But they're crucial, Hugh, aren't they? They're crucial to and they can be any quality, because like a lot of us, we've probably played the entry level and the mid range and the expensive ones too, Simon. And you can even get them on modelers now, which are pretty good. So, but you got to have those, and then obviously the half step tuning. Took me a couple of years to realise that, Hugh, that half step tuning is crucial to as a guitar player, to try and replicate that. And we're still talking about Hendrix, Simon. We're still talking about him. We're still today.
A little tone tip. If you're using a fuzz and a wah, a lot of people think you get Hendrix sound putting the wah after the fuzz, which is no, do it the other way.
You always put the wah first, don't you? Always
put the wah first.
Yeah, always. But a lot of people will tell you to get a Hendrix sound that he used to put it after, which is complete nonsense.
Oh, I've done that, and it just sounds like a fart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Didn't sound like Hendrix. Yeah, damn.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well that's good advice. Yeah. Keep your wah in the front, and you'll be fine.
Always.
But look, I agree with you guys. It's a 10 out of 10. Go and check out that solo. It's incredible, isn't it, Simon? It's just an incredible solo. Fantastic.
Yeah. It's and as I said, we're back in those days, aren't we? Where there were no limits, there were no, there's nobody saying, "Oh, you're in this genre, you're in that genre, you're doing this one." You just, I've got an armory of things I can do on a guitar, and I go out and I play. Just let it happen. And I think that's, I feel that's, this is a great part of this record, and Hendrix stuff in this period, was all about experimentation. It was all about new. It was all about going forward, moving it forward, away from sort of more traditional blues into blues rock. These things are the templates for it, aren't they? In many ways, I know other bands are doing it at the same time as not, but I think this is you could say this is one of the templates of rock music going forward, can't you? In a way that
and again, regarding that solo there. A lot of people can do like high gain, fancy solos and stuff like that. Very few people can do visceral solos that just totally blow your head off. You know what I mean? It's like, wow.
And that is the word. Visceral is the word, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. The word Hendrix and visceral go together. Absolutely, yeah. Great word.
Yeah. And we can talk about that at the
folks,
conclusion a little bit more, Hugh, that point. I think you're raising a good point, and we can talk about that at the conclusion, because I think between the three of us, we might have couple of 5 minutes worth of experiences there that we've had over our years of getting a Hendrix tone. Thank you, Anthony. Well said, Hugh and Simon. Thank you. You fantastic. Anthony, if you ever want to come on a show and rank an album with us, let me know.
Yeah, please do, actually, yeah. You've watched a couple of shows. This is the format.
Hugh.
Yeah. Track 3 is Hendrix tribute to Cream, which is Sunshine of Your Love.
Oh, baby.
That he was known to do quite often live. And basically it's a long jam instrumental version he would do. He wouldn't sing it ever.
No, that's right, yeah.
It's got the first time I've ever heard it anyway, it's got a distorted no red and bass solo in it. It's the first time I've ever heard that. And it's a long sprawling jam. A lot of people that I've heard or spoke to rate this song on the album a bit more than I do. I do like it, and I like the wee things like the nod to Outside Women Blues, where he plays the same little riff from that and stuff like that. But I love the original so much that even Hendrix can't top it for me. So I would always listen to it. I would never ever skip it or anything there. But it's still brilliant. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10 still.
Yeah, good score. Good score.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. It's really interesting that huge kind of fuzz bass. That's something of a surprise, isn't it? It's like, blimey, listen to that.
Jack Bruce on steroids.
Yeah, Jack Bruce, yes, completely. To me, what's interesting, I mean, he doesn't use it all the time. He uses it judiciously, doesn't he, to kind of really fill out the sound when Hendrix is soloing. And I think that's really good. It's a nice little lesson there, isn't it? That with an instrument, if there are only 3 of you, you've each got quite a lot of spaces to fill up, haven't you? And if one of you, the guitar, is filling up quite a small space, solo wise, you've got a lot of space to fill up, and having a huge fuzz kind of bass like that to turn on was amazing. Yeah, that really made me smile. That did as a thing. It's like, listen to that. I mean, on my stereo loud, it's like thunderous. Again, the drumming is amazing. I think that very kind of jazzy, and you can see that Hendrix would go in that direction. You feel that it's not just straight 4/4 stuff by Country Mile. There's a lot of intricate drumming and for color and for dynamics and things as well that within the playing. It's I mean, as you say, he did on the Lulu show, didn't he? Sunshine of Your Love and things. So he's famous for sort of dropping into it and jamming it kind of thing. And again, you've got the kind of that major soloing, really, which is wild, feral soloing again. Improvisation, it's clearly improvised, and I think for me, I can feel that this is, he's just letting go, as Mark Tanner said, you just let go. And yes, I'm sure it did, Mark. Yes, influenced Lemmy, because Lemmy was Hendrix's roadie, wasn't he? So he would have seen that. So I think that's a really good shout. I absolutely do think that's a really good shout. Influenced Lemmy. Lemmy was there for some of it. But yeah, it's I think it's very heavy and fuzzy at the end. But basically a jam thing. I give it 9 out of 10. Never a skip. Yeah, it's great fun. I think that's the thing you've got to remember. So for me, there's a lot of fun in this. There's a lot of it makes me smile. The fuzz bass and the it's I think there's lots of fun in it. It's not not all serious. So yes, 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, good scores, guys. Rock Professor, you're right. A lot of fun, but also a lot of affection. And I'm glad that you mentioned the Lulu show, because I think, again, we mentioned that one other show that we did together, maybe with Brad, and we spoke about that, and how it's a wonderful piece of film footage where Jimmy is just running on right through the end credits, they're trying to stop him, and he wants to play his celebration his homage to his mates in Cream, and we get that on this, don't we, Hugh? And it's like fantastic to hear this. Imagine listening to this in 1987 or 88 when it came out, and again in the early 90s, thinking, you know, these cats were familiar. They were friends, Simon. You know, Jimi Hendrix was singing or playing Beatles and Cream numbers. You know, why? Because he loved these bands.
Wasn't there a rumor going around that they were going to break up around this time? So I think there's a kind of I think there might be an element of that as well.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't forget that Hendrix brought out he played the Sgt. Pepper song the night before the album came out.
Correct.
Live
with the Beatles in the bloody audience, and people were saying, why would you do that? And the Beatles turned around and they got it. The Beatles got it. They were blown away by it.
Hey, well, he's never shy of covering other people's material, was he? You know, All Along the Watchtower. I only need to point your, you know, which, you know,
Hey Joe,
is a definitive version of it. Isn't it? Hey Joe, you know, and his version of Like a Rolling Stone is also fantastic. Wild Thing. Get to that later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about that later.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you know, as the rock professor said, folks, you know, fun, you know, a lot of fun and a lot of fondness and a lot of affection, and just goes to show how tight these bands were that we love and adore, Hugh, around this period. You know, yes, they were egging each other on, Simon, edging each other on. Yes, there was that competitive aspect, you know, but at the end of the day, they were friends too, and they were, you know, they were happy to do it. And you know, look, I love this version, Hugh. When I hear it, I thought, wow. When I was a young guy, you know, I was well and truly familiar with Cream's version. But I agree with you. I think you've nailed it. You know, the Cream playing Sunshine. Oh, a perfect song, a perfect pop song. But hearing Jimmy play this, as the rock professor said, you can just imagine, you know, the young people in the audience just would have gone nuts, Simon, with him playing this. You know because it was still it was in the top 10 or the top 20 around this. 9 out of 10. Yeah, we could do a show on just Sunshine of Your Love for 3 hours, can't we? But we're not.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure we should, which is the key thing, isn't it? You think we should? Possibly.
Okay, then, guys. We're on to track 4 now, and it's Spanish Castle Magic. Again, another track from was on his debut album. And again, this is why I believe what the fuss was all about when people said you have to hear Hendrix live at the time.
Yeah.
Because although the studio album version is amazing, live it's like, wow. The tone, that huge Marshall sound live. His guitar is compressing so much during the solos. It's like a violin sound almost. You know what I mean?
You got it.
It's so loud, and it's one of his great sound. Sorry that this was off. Yeah, sorry, talking to my tail now. Yeah, this is just one of the best live versions that's in existence, and I've heard a lot. This is a straight Hugh score. One for me, it's a 8 million.
It's a Hugh score.
I love
the
it.
First Hugh score of the program. Yes, tremendous. Dear. Well done, Hugh. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean it's again. This is taking it again. Starting to introducing it. The first 2 songs are like 3 and 4 minutes long, so fairly tight, fairly close to the to it. Then you get a sort of Sunshine in Love, which is like 6.5 minutes long. Then you've got another 5.5 minutes. So the show is kind of like tight and focused to start with. Then you start to stretch out, don't you? And I presume that's a tribute to Alan Douglas, who for a long time Hendrix man, putting it together and choosing tremendous versions. I mean, we can go and listen to the Winterland and listen to the other versions of it. But I think throughout this, he chose amazing versions. From those 3 nights that Hendrix did, and again, you've got that kind of massive thrash drums, basic guitars to start, and then you've got into that funky guitar that goes into that heavy. Alternates between that kind of funky heavy thing that and as you said, Hugh, that the sound is is just amazing. With hardly anything, and that's really the key to me. Is, that with hardly anything, you're making this tremendous sound. And he solos over heavy bass and really busy drumming kind of thing. But I'll go back to one of my Noel Redding, very much the kind of the foundation of this, holding it down. He doesn't go wild much, does he? Noel, he keeps it focused and somebody's got to. It's a bit like Pete Townsend in the Who, isn't it? You've got the bass solo and you've got bass guitar, Dan was and Keith Moon doing what only Keith Moon can do. But but somebody's got to be slightly the bassist, and that's Townsend. And in this case, it's Noel Redding, and I think that is really important. That somebody's just holding it down, not doing anything flash, not doing anything wild, crazy, and he's got his sound. That he does. I mean, Mick sounds like he's doing a drum solo under some of it. It's just sort of amazing. It's kind of like they just keep going. But I'll also say that I think Hendrix sings really well on this as well. I know he was never that confident about his voice, but I think the singing is fantastic. I think that psychedelic tinged lyrics and things, but soloing is amazing. Bluesy, rocky, hugely expressive. He's one of those people, isn't he? Just can step off the cliff and just go. Soar. Down. Down the bottom end, up the dusty end. And it's just amazing. An extraordinary kind of soloing. No, you're right, John. It isn't. John says it's not in set list order. No, it's very much not that, which I think is a tribute to Alan Douglas, where he clearly had a a theme, a way of producing it in mind with the track listings and the running order, and that he didn't pay any attention to what was done live, and he picked out. And I think that's just evidence of it here. I love the bit he ends where he says, "Makes up for the junk we have behind us." Complaining about the Marshall amps, which is quite funny. But 10 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Fantastic version, and Hendrix absolutely on fire with it all, really, literally. Andrew.
Thanks, Simon. Longish songs, aren't they, folks, on this CD or compilation? So you're certainly getting your money's worth when you're watching these guys live. I too made a note in my notes here, Hugh, about the virtue of studio numbers versus live albums or live versions. So I'm glad that you made that point with this song, because I think this song is better for you as a fan or as a beginning person coming to Hendrix's music, especially now, to be sort of drenched, Simon, in all this music that we couldn't get 20 years ago, that we couldn't get 25 or even 30 years ago. I'm so old, I just remember us talking about the studio albums when I was back at school, Simon. That's pretty much, and the official compilations that they had. So, again, to be sitting down with you guys and talking about, these great recordings, I'm glad that they did it. I'm not going to repeat a lot of what you guys have already said, other than the fuzz tone on this track is just fantastic. I just, one pedal, one Marshall and one Strat. And we're going to talk about this many, many times as we continue this this ranking of the tracks. But wow, what a tone. Go and check it out, folks. It's up there, Hugh. I think you said this is the definitive version for you?
It's up there in top 3 easy, yeah.
Yeah. I agree. It's up there. It's up there in definitive versions for me too. Look,
Mm.
I can't give this anything less than a 10 out of 10 either. It's just fantastic.
No. Well, I think that's,
Nice.
as I said, that's a tribute to Alan Douglas and his production of it and stuff. And I'll pick up on what John said. John said D341 said the album is not in set list order. The first two nights started with 15 minutes and 10-minute versions of tax free, so not that short and focused. No, and I think that's a really good point, John. And the point is that Alan Douglas took the performances and made a studio, production out of a live, and didn't just make it a documentation of a live concert, from beginning to end kind of thing. I think that's, and I think that's, that means that, we're not listening to what he actually did on the night, but we are listening to a really good compilation of the best tracks done in a particular order, and from the three nights. I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Hugh.
Yeah, okay, on with track number 5, which is another live favourite of Jimmy's from his debut album. It's called Red House. All three members here give a what I think is a blues masterclass on this. I used to own a cassette one time that had nothing but long versions of this song on it.
Brilliant.
Uh,
It's man after my own heart.
yes, and what I love about this version is the tempo changes. They take it right down to pin quiet at times, and they're all just tuned in, totally locked in together. Hendrix blues playing on this is better than anybody I've ever loved playing blues. Basically, I think he is the man when it comes to that. His phrasing is unbelievable. I'm still trying to steal his licks, but I can't play them anywhere near as well. This is another. I think it's the best live version out of the 8 million versions of this in existence. It's a masterpiece. So it's another Hugh score. 8 million. Love it.
Good work.
Yep.
Yeah, it's. I mean, was it Buddy Guy who said Hendrix couldn't play the blues? He wasn't a blues artist.
I think so.
I'm sure he said that. Yeah, it's either Buddy Guy, something like, or maybe Albert Collins, but one of them said, yeah, he's not a blues player. I think this disproves that myself, but because it uses all the classic blues tropes, doesn't it? It's got that, starts off with that classic slow blues turnaround, the absolute bona fide, and then he goes into that solo guitar, and that's playing pure blues. To me, there's no other description of it other than that's pure blues. And then you've got the drums and the walking bass that come in behind it. Great use of space, and it really burns in that slow burning sort of way. It's quite controlled, very melodic, and passionate and stuff. And he doesn't come in to 2:37 before he starts singing. So there's plenty of meat before we get to the yeah. It's and I think that that, as you say, he uses a classic call and response stuff with his guitar. And the amazing thing is sometimes he does call and response, sometimes he does call and response at the same time, doesn't he? He plays his guitar whilst he's singing underneath, like,
Yeah.
that's not in the spirit of it, Jimmy. That's which I think is fantastic. That's really good. Nice use of falsetto as always, lots of falsetto, stuff, and some spoken vocals too. So lots of vocal dynamics and variation in this. The amazing fuzz bass at 5:20 makes a welcome return under the soaring solo that Jimmy's playing. Then, as you say, Hugh, it gets faster. It gets speeds up, kind of thing, and then he drops down. So really nice use of tempo and volume, clearly, to to create dynamics and great feel in it. And then you've got those kind of funky clean chords as well towards the end, and some more soloing. I mean, yeah, it's 100 out of 10, isn't it? It's a great version of it, and has everything that Hendrix could do in here. All the stuff, and brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Could listen to it over and over. Yes, 100 out of 10 for me. Andrew.
Thanks, mate. It's the second time our channel has been fortunate and blessed to talk about this song, because when we ranked the blues compilation, this song, Hugh's on there. And I remember being a young guy, hearing this song, being blown away by it. I just thought it was just fantastic. And I still do, 40 years later. I just think it's just a fantastic example of that period of time and what they were trying to do, and how this black American guy, was hugely influenced by these British guys, and giving us this version. And we wouldn't have had this version, Simon, I'm convinced, if he hadn't have been in the UK, if he hadn't been around Clapton and Beck and these guys. We wouldn't have got this. We would have got, a Chicago blues version of it, maybe. I don't know. Which is not bad in itself, but this is another level, another layer on top of what the song could have been. I agree with you, Hugh. I think it's a masterclass. It's a masterclass of, and you said it, Simon, so many times, in contrasting and being able to control your guitar and turn your guitar down and the volume down. And you got to remember that he's doing that all with a volume knob, isn't he, Hugh?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much that's how he's controlling those amps, because those amps are all on 10.
Yeah,
that's undisputed fact, folks. All those amps are on 10. So
everything's on 10.
Yeah, and he's controlling that with a single pot on a Stratocaster. It's just phenomenal. I agree with you, Hugh and Simon. Masterclass. I could listen to. I love all versions of this, and the fact that you made a playlist, or a cassette, Hugh, doesn't surprise me. Because
Fantastic.
coming to my mind, I think if you did that, if you made a playlist of this, but also Peter Green and John Mayall, Tears in My Eye, there's about 3 or 4 versions where Peter Green is playing that live in 67 or 66. Great examples of electric blues. Who's our co-host here, Simon? What's his name? Who's our co-host?
Hugh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a Hugh score.
Hugh score. Oh, good work.
Nice
I'm going to
one,
go to
mate.
Brad's
Nice one.
score.
Has
I'm
to be.
cheating it.
One of the best songs he's ever recorded.
Absolutely. Totally agree. All right, then. Track number 6 is Killing Floor, which is a cover version that he would do live a lot, and it was always a favourite. Was probably most famous for, was the opening track he played when he played live at Monterey, and after being introduced by Brian Jones. Here, I think this version is every bit as good as the Monterey version. Mitch Mitchell is killing it here. It is thunderous. Probably the best drum sound on the album. I can't remember what night it was, if it was the second or third night, this one, but it was an absolutely amazing Jack Cassidy appearance on bass.
Yep.
His thumping bass stands out a mile. It's like a tow truck.
Unbelievable. It's just remarkable, isn't it, Simon? Just the difference night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hendrix is what he showcases as well how great his rhythm chops are on this song. I know from experience trying to learn this song that it's not easy to play well live. And everything about it is great. Again, I've got nothing I can criticise it for, so I'm not gonna. So I'll give it a 10.
Good man.
Yeah, I think wasn't Killing Floor the thing that Hendrix, the first thing that Hendrix played when he came to UK, when he went to
Yes.
when
Yes.
when
Cream.
Clapton
thing-
Cream gig.
Clouds of
Yep.
Cream was doing is now when he played and
Yep.
Yep.
blew them all away, made Clapton want to go to hide.
Apparently,
And,
Eric walked off stage and said to his manager, Chaz, "You never told me. Was that good?"
Absolutely, yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, for me, there's a staple of Hendrix, isn't it? It's one of his staple tracks. Taking the old Howling Wolf thing, but taking it into rock territory. You know, absolutely with great Jack Cassidy on bass. You know, and it's got that fast, funky guitar. You know, kind of at the beginning, it really establishes the groove. And the bass and drums come in on that groove, but Hendrix has established it. You know, with his playing, and he's got very kind of funky hybrid of rhythm and lead going on, which is amazing. You know, it's kind of, I don't think then many players were playing it like that back then. You know, I think it's kind of
No.
de rigueur now. Like everybody can play that, but I think back then I think it was pretty rare for someone here. If you want to know where it started, this is kind of where it's that funky hybrid of rhythm and lead, just fantastic. You know. And before he moves up into, and starts, up to the dusty end of the neck, and there's some amazing kind of, big solo stuff. Again, slows it down, to more rhythm and fuzz bass and, and steady drums. Again, that kind of use a bit of wah wah in there as well. First kind of, I can't remember it being particularly used. I saw it first, noticed it on this track anyway, even if it's been used somewhere else. That's just me. Yeah, again, then having more complex drumming, then you've got that like nice bass solo at the end and a big guitar really. Fantastic version of it, taking it to new territory, the blues into new territory, in a way that nobody had before. 10 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Andrew.
Fantastic. Great Fanzini, I need to talk to you, bro, because a while ago I put out a message on social media asking for somebody to join us live to talk about, to do a bass show. And I remember now after your comment here when you spoke about Jack Cassidy being one of your heroes, and I remember when you did a couple of shows with Simon and I that you started out as a bass player. So we would love to organise to get you on, because we'd love to do a bass players show, talk about bass players. So if you can think about that, and we'll keep in touch and try and organise that, because I agree with you. Jack Cassidy on bass on this track, it's just he just completely different, and it blew me away. And I'm not going to repeat what you guys said, other than it's a classic blues track, Simon. That guys were playing for a long time back in America. I love a lot of versions. There's a lot of young cats out there playing this version. Art Mendez. We were fortunate enough to have on the channel Philip Sace has done versions of this, playing live. And you're right, Simon. It started. This ability to have a big thumb to go around here and use these other fingers to play lead, and then go back here to play a chord, started when everybody else was playing their chords like this, Simon.
Yeah.
And you had a lead, and you had a lead guy up here, and you had a rhythm guitarist that was dedicated to playing rhythm. You're right. It started with Hendrix.
I think probably. Or he made it into that, didn't he? And as you say, people like Philip Stace have have taken that on into an integral part of their playing. But I don't think that people like Mike Bloomfield around at the same time, they didn't really do that, did they?
No,
I don't think
Mike
Eric
wasn't
really did that. Eric really
No.
didn't do that, did he? Not on this time.
They were lead guitarists.
Yeah, I'm sure there were
playing
other people doing it, and I'm sure somebody could point out somebody else who's doing it. But I think that Hendrix is one of the main proponents of that, as you say, the thumb over. You know,
Started with this
like-
guy, and
Yeah.
one of the reasons why we'll continue to talk about him.
Indeed.
But I love this version. I think it's fantastic. And again, we love doing a little bit of rock and roll history. You're right, Hugh. This was the song that blew everybody away in the UK. This was the one that other musicians sat down and went, "Holy shit, this guy's fantastic," and we're doing it 50 or probably 60 years later, soon, the way time clicks on. I'm not going to give this a 10 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. But it's never a skip, Simon.
No.
Hugh,
No.
When do you want me to flick the picks up too?
Well,
Carry
let's
on.
do the picks
We're
now.
going to do now.
Yeah, let's do the picks now. Good point.
Okay, all right. Hold on then.
What have we got on the
gentlemen.
picks, Doctor?
Hold on.
Hold on.
Hold on. The photos. Okay, so obviously this is the cover of the original one. And Simon, now you've got a CD there, haven't you? Have you got your original CD?
I have, yeah. See, you can see.
And there it is.
What they've done
there.
is they put this grey kind of border around
Yeah.
it with the visiting rather than just a photograph. Fantastic photograph, by the way.
Yeah.
Upside down.
So you would have had that on the cassette tape, Hugh? That would have been the pick on the cassette tape when you picked it up?
The very same, yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah. Awesome. So I've just got, and this is the photo of our show card there, and obviously that's off the compilation, the box set, Hugh,
Yeah.
of Jimmy Whaling. There's a signed autograph there that Jimmy did to Rosetta. Looking cool with that jacket. Now, apparently that jacket was what was the jacket? It wasn't was it a ambulance, or it was a medical corps jacket or something? Simon, Hugh, can you guys remember the jacket that he was wearing?
Yeah.
Hussar's jacket from what's that? The famous shop in London.
Oh, it was a
It's all there.
Hussar's jacket. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's some live pics.
That's from Berkeley as well.
Yep. Bit of a fuzzy one there of Jimmy.
Yeah. So that's quite happens with photographs in that era, doesn't it? Quite a lot. I see through there.
Aye.
Yeah.
And there's Jimmy doing something with those Marshall cabinets, Hugh.
That's maybe he was complaining about this. They're running out of tubes.
Once he keeps hitting them with his guitar. dear Mr. Hendrix, they don't respond well to being hit by your guitar.
Yeah.
Look at that.
That's from Albert Hall. The
Albert
last
Hall.
gig at Albert Hall.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Big headstock.
Look at the smiles.
Straight.
Look at the smiles. Great.
Have you guys reviewed the Isle of Wight show?
No.
No. Because we're running out of albums, Hugh.
Of course.
You know, are you running out of albums? Yes. No.
That's a cool pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of fantastic. Yeah. Look
Nice.
how close to the amps he is as well.
Yeah.
Like, funny is it? The stages are not very deep, are they? They're not way back, kind of thing, as you'd have now. But
Yeah.
he's like right on them, isn't he? Yeah, it's kind of like not way out in front of them.
Love that.
Yeah.
And there's the last one. We know what Jimmy's doing there,
Look at-
don't we? He's doing the pelvic thrust there.
Yeah.
Ah,
Right, those are the picks, Hugh.
Very cool, mate. Very cool.
yeah,
No
fantastic.
problem. Thank you.
Always cool picks. Yeah, always cool picks.
All right then. So we move on with track number 7, which is a song called "Tax Free." Was it Bo Hansen and forget this other guy's name? It was
Jan
Jan
Carlson.
Carlson. Jan Carlson, yeah. They wrote this and Hendrix took it up, and I think it appeared on as a studio version on War Heroes album,
Oh.
which I prefer to this live version, which I think is a bit too ramshackle and rambling. I'm not a big fan of this, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's the poorest thing on the album. I would skip it, and I would only give this about a 6. I really don't like it. I'm sorry, but the 20-year-old me would probably lynch myself for saying this, but
I get
no,
it
I
exactly.
don't. I'm not a fan. Sorry, 6 out of 10 for me.
It's a kind of to me it's a kind of period piece, Hugh. Yeah, it's a period from that and as you I'm sure we've all noticed that the last this track and the previous two, so Red House is 11.5 minutes, Killing Floor is 8 minutes, this is 8 minutes as well. So this is kind of like, sure, Alan Douglas design it on. This is kind of the meat in the sandwich kind of thing. The 3 really long, tracks, and this is the kind of the most improvised, the most the most free form one on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Hansen and Carlson were a Swedish duo consisting of Bo Hansen on organ and Jan Carlson on drums, and they basically played instrumental jazz fusion, which and I think that's really important, because I think it gives what this track does is it gives a bit of a pointer as to where Hendrix might have gone,
Sure.
after Electric Ladyland. Unfortunately, he died, but I know there was talk of him jamming with Miles Davis, and he got, Billy Cox and Buddy Miles to play instead of Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding. Clearly, and I think that that this is about that kind of jazz fusion thing. I agree with you. It's probably the weakest track on the album, but I understand why it's here. I understand, that it's another facet of Hendrix, as if you're going to present the facets of Hendrix within one
Totally
album.
agree, Simon, about the what you mean about the showcasing about how his direction was going. What I meant to say though, before I finished, was
sorry,
the studio version I love of this. It
right.
comes out on War Heroes album. I think that's fusion guitar excellence, So sorry, that's what I think on that.
No, so is that later than this? That will be later than this, Hugh. Yes. And when he recorded it for, yeah. So
yes.
you might say he's had a chance to work it up, and clearly
Sure.
a studio's a slightly different thing, isn't it, to a live thing when you're in the flow of it and stuff. So I think it has lots of points of interest in it. It's got some nice wah-wah guitar, and it, as I say, it's got that intro that's a bit like Purple Haze Foxy Lady, hasn't it? That down but slow down kind of thing that gives you a kind of an interesting. I think there's some really nice bass chords and some guitar phased chords, that he does in the middle and things, and some nice, that long kind of single note guitar section, 656, that I think is not classic Hendrix, is it? You don't think of Hendrix as just holding one note for quite a long time, kind of thing. So
yeah,
and I think you get towards the end, you've got those kind of soaring guitar alternatives with really heavy chords and stuff. That's I think sounds fantastic and stuff. And I gave it a 8 out of 10, and I wouldn't skip it either. I think it's it's fun. It's not as strong as the other tracks on the album, but I think it's, as I say, I think as a pointer as to where Hendrix might have gone, and what he was doing later with that, moving into a more jazz thing and away from the thing. I think it has a kind of historical bit to it as well. So that makes me give it an 8 anyway. Andrew.
Yeah, I think you're right, Simon, and I think we got to put that into context. With I was going to talk about this towards the end of the show, but this is a perfect time to talk about it. So I agree with you. I think this is an indication of where Hendrix was going to go, and the distinction for me is that a lot of these jazz artists back at this time were jamming. Was it you jumped up on stage and you improvised, and that's a jam, isn't it? And clearly Hendrix loved doing that. If you read any of the biographies that are out there, they could play for a long time. Hendrix just loved it, and perhaps maybe saw himself following down that path. And this is a track, a number, Simon and Hugh, that links into that argument. And remember too, Clapton was kind of doing this kind of thing as well at that time, where they were jamming. This is how we're going to sort of find where we're going to go through this process of creating music together. And the big juxtaposition for Clapton, as opposed to where the jazz musicians were going, and this free form, this free style of music, was when he caught up with the guys from the band, when he said, let's go and jam. And they turned around and said to him, we don't jam, we write songs.
Yeah.
So there is a, that differentiation of where these two kind of camps were going at the time. And I think you're right. I think that's exactly where Jimmy would have gone down. He would have gone down that jazz road, and it would have been interesting to see where he would have taken it. Getting back to the track itself, Hugh, I get exactly where you come from when you said the 20-year-old would have skipped it. I would have done the same thing too. I would have skipped this, when I was 20. But I'll never skip it now. And I think as a collaboration, it's a fine piece of music. I've given this a 9 out of 10, and never a skip.
Right. Okay.
Hugh.
Yeah. On to track number 8, which is another old favourite from Jimmy's.
Oh yeah.
Foxy Lady. This has never been one of my favourite Hendrix songs. It's got the famous riff. It's so famous. It's really so famous, but it never really grabbed me as much as some of the rest of Are You Experienced when it came out. Still think it's a brilliant version on here. It starts off with the usual, the sustained feedback, holding that one note for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Then it jumps in. The band are very cohesive again on this version. The sound comes across pretty clear as well, which it doesn't on every single night of the 3 nights. I find that that's why I think Alan picked the right ones that kind of went together as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
His soloing is fantastic on it as well. Let's say 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, fair. Yes, it's a bit longer than the single version, than the original recording, but it pretty much sticks to that the sound, the format, and the in the way of doing it. There's some I think there's some wild passionate soloing over the fuzz bass thing, the return of the fuzz bass to fill in the gap behind underneath the solo and things. And some really nice towards the end, some really nice kind of hammer-ons as well, doesn't he? Little stuff that he didn't play them particularly anywhere else, but he plays them on this and the next one too. But yeah, it's a great version. It's a great song and a great version. I gave it 9 out of 10, and I wouldn't skip it. So, Andrew.
No, I wouldn't skip it too, Simon. And I get though where Hugh's coming from, because it's it's a song that they play on classic rock all the time, and and we do talk about that when we do some of these albums. Sometimes we've spoken about how we turn the radio down when these songs come on, and there's sometimes where we just we listen to it 5 times a week and we still love it. I I'm probably over Foxy ladied, you know.
yeah.
If
Familiarity.
if we could ever be over Foxy ladies.
Steady now. Easy, Tiger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ho, 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 ho.
Look, the intro is outstanding, isn't it? That feedback, and as Hugh said, and he holds that note for 3 weeks. I'm going to remember that one. That's fantastic. It's and you know, just goes to show the power of, you know, of that system that they've got for him to do that. And then all of a sudden you're into that raucous intro. Great song. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. But I'd beware. I don't think this is a good intro for anybody that's not heard Hendrix before. I'd play the next song that we're going to rank way before I would play this version, you know, or, you know, any other song that we've done here already. I wouldn't play this version to someone, you know, from the Ukraine who's never heard of Jimi Hendrix, Simon.
No, I think that's right. No. But you know, in the context of the album, I think it's you know, it's, you can tell, can't you? You know, the last, you know, we've had the kind of the long jammy ones and stuff like that, and now we're back to the much more focused kind of, you know, early, you know, dare I say it, pop Hendrix. In a way. Yeah, the hit songs. I mean,
that's a good point. That's a good point you make. Folks got to remember this, that back in 68, 60, you know, these were pop songs. The next songs that we're going to do are all pop songs, Hugh.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Good point, Simon. Yeah.
Hit records.
yeah. You know, up there with, you know, Taylor Swift and all that kind of stuff. Billie Eilish.
Right.
Yeah.
Joe Dolce. Okay then, guys.
Right.
On we go. Number 9 is an old Hey Joe, an old favourite of everyone's. Probably the most famous cover that he'd done maybe outside of Along the Watchtower. This is a killer live version. All three of them are on top form here. Jimmy's guitar solos, especially the first one, he's the only guy I know that can make a guitar solo sound velvety smooth, but searing at the same time. I don't know how you do that. I've tried it, and I can't do it. This is one of the better live versions, and it's not too long at all as well, which I like. Because I don't like a long jam on a song as simple as this, you know. So yeah, it's a very easy 9 out of 10. It's very good.
Yep.
Yeah. So clearly, this is a song that, you know, Hendrix had from his Jimmy James and the Vagabond era, you know, brought forward, and, you know, and first single, I think, first single.
First single.
Yeah,
yep.
So you know, as a cover version of a classic, as you say, he's got that, you know, huge chord at the beginning, and the bass pulses, and the drums, you know, really thing. Great opening. And then you've got that solo guitar with the hammer-ons, you know, again, sort of used to, you know, having not used it at all, the technique, I don't think, but in any of the other songs, he's then using hammer-ons and stuff. And it's, you know, and they're kind of more intricate chords under the singing and stuff. I mean, I know, you know, it's not, he's kind of, you know, he is kind of expanding out the version and changing it, you know, a bit like, you know, Dylan changes it every time he plays stuff. But, you know, and that, you know, the variations on the recorded solo and stuff, but it's still quite near it. It still sticks reasonably, you know, to the actual song. I mean, clearly at 6:44, it's stretching it out a bit, you know, into the improvised solos and things, which are fantastic. and you've got the the drop out to the drums at 550, which kind of keeps the dynamics going. And it's a plays the classic run to the end, doesn't he? Da, 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 da. Which is just brilliant. That's kind of, I'm sure that's his own invention, that run. But 9 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. I think it's a great version of it. And as I say, we could talk about this a bit more. It's in a really good place on the album. To get back to the hits kind of thing, and get back to having had the long jammy bits in the middle. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree, mate. One of the first Hendrix songs I learnt to play as a young fella, and one that I still love playing today. That chord progression where it goes from C to G to D to A and to E, and then you're up here at the 12th fret. It's just, I love it, and that, after you go from here, Hugh, but when you're going from 3 to 5, and then from 4 to 2, and then you're going, you're doing that from that 4th to 5th to the E chord, just, wow. I remember when I was a young guy when I learnt to play that.
Yeah.
I felt I was Jimi Hendrix.
You felt great.
I felt like I was Jimmy. But you all got to start from somewhere. But you're right, Simon. Important track because it was the first single. It was the first single of his career in the UK, wasn't it? And it was one that people were locking onto and garnered a lot of attention. Very important how they put this towards the end, obviously, on this compilation. How many versions of Hey Joe are out there that Hendrix has played? How many versions? There's a few out there. There's a few.
Tons. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're all pretty good versions, Simon. I love the recorded version. The original version's pretty good. Do I see this version adding much more to the live version? No, I don't. And we've just spoken before that early on, there's some of these live versions that went higher level than the recorded version. So I like this track, but I wouldn't give it more than 8.5 Hugh out of 10. But it's never a skip.
Sure.
Love the song, but it's just a good version.
I think I'll just point out before too that John said he makes a good point about the lyrical content and stuff being although I might make an exception for a few rap songs, John, who were, I don't know, some quite dubious lyrical content in those. But I understand what you want to abstain about. I get that kind of violence against women, not a cool thing anymore, for sure. Anyway, Hugh.
Yeah, okay. Penultimate track, which sometimes isn't always the best track on an album, as we've found out. But on here it's Purple Haze, and it's fantastic. This is one of my favourite versions out of the numerous out there, live versions, that is. Even though Hendrix gets his words mixed up a little in, I think, in the third chorus or third verse. It's just I've got a thing. I play this song live with my band, and there's a certain tone you need to get with that main riff on your guitar, or it just doesn't work. And on this, it sounds the best because it really cuts that riff. So when I hear it, I want to go and sort of put my guitar through the amplifier. You know what I mean? And this is a killer version. I love it. It's a 10 out of 10 all day. Love it.
Yeah, it's difficult to find a lot new to say about Purple Haze, isn't it? It's such a famous track. One of the pillars of Jimi Hendrix's recorded estate, and so it's kind of, as you say, it's kind of it's a longer version. Has some more extended solos, but pretty much it's the same as the recorded version, isn't it? It doesn't really deviate that much, and I think the solos are fantastic, right? Soaring, loud, wild, that kind of, I think only Hendrix can do, really. I think everyone else seems quite
I
controlled
agree.
compared to Jimmy when he's, letting fly. I could easily be wrong about that, but that's my feeling about Hendrix, and that's why for me he's probably the greatest guitarist player ever in my world. Because of that kind of that ability to just, you know, that kind of wild feral feeling that I don't get from any other guitar player, not quite in the
Yeah.
same way. I yield to no one in my admiration for Jimmy Page, who I think is a master, but doesn't quite have the sort of Hendrix wild, free, thing that Hendrix does, and it's just extraordinary, that thing. So yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for me, and never a skip, But you all know what a Purple Haze sounds like. It sounds like that. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree, guys. It's pretty hard to come through third and offer something that's that you guys haven't already spoken about. Anthony's made this comment in the chat. Total class. Got to agree with him. The fuzz. This is just a glorious fuzz tone. On this track, and if you want to get an example of what it should be, this is probably one of the best examples, Hugh, that you can.
Absolutely.
And it drives the song. And then you've got Mitch doing what Mitch does. Just a fantastic drummer, isn't he? And he just does not get the attention I think that, he probably deserves, really, really important key ingredient to the success of the Jimi Hendrix Experience. We don't shit on bass players here. Bass players are important. But when you consider what Noel was doing, Noel's no John Paul Jones. Noel's no Jack Bruce. Noel's no Andy Fraser. So what
I was going to say, don't you think that that's actually some of that is about his role in this band with these other
exactly.
players?
Exactly. Just holding those.
Yeah.
Hey, Johnny Heartbreaker, good to see you. Just holding the chords, and that's exactly what he needed to do, So he never overplayed it, and the overplaying, besides coming from Jimmy, was coming from this, drummer who was schooled and educated in jazz drumming, and that's why I think this live album sounds so glorious. And all the other tracks, and the famous verse, excuse me while I kiss the sky, and it's like, when you're a young guy, what's that about? And then people would tell you, and it's like, oh, okay, there's bad things. Bad things. Yeah.
Great phrase. Great phrase.
Yeah. Look, I've given this a 10 out of 10, Hugh. I just think it's a great manifesto for what the Jimi Hendrix Experience was about at this time. Hugely influential. Hugh.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that Mitch was the perfect guy for the job when it came to working with Jimmy. I don't think any other drummer could have had the same impact on Jimmy and their music. So, perfect.
You're right there, John.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a guitar player.
He was.
He was indeed. In fact, Mattress.
He got the gig because he had good hair.
The right hair, yes.
yeah. His afro was the biggest in the band at the time as well. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Hey Phil, good to see you, bro.
Morning, Phil.
Oh, Phil, yeah, I've seen Phil for a while.
Descending fourth progression with all the major chords in E actually done. There we are.
Final track, guys, is Jimmy's old version of the Trogs, old 60s classic Wild Thing. Again, it's the song that when I played Monterey, it was when he burned his guitar famously after playing that. And I think this song is a a visual thing, not a sonic thing, if you know what I mean. On here, it sounds okay. It kind of peters off a wee bit at the end. I don't even know what he's doing because obviously it's not filmed, but yeah, it's a lackluster. I wish it wasn't the last song on the album.
Good point.
And still pretty alright. I'll give it an 8 to finish.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, it goes interestingly, and I think this is probably what Alan Douglas had. Clearly he wanted to go straight from Purple Haze into Wild Thing. So if you've chosen a really good version of Purple Haze and that's how you want it to run, that's how they ran, you are in a position where you've got to choose the version of Wild Thing that goes after the version of Purple Haze you've chosen, haven't you?
Yeah.
You could try and chop another one, but that's what it felt like to me, is that he'd chosen the Purple Haze, and then he had the Wild Thing that went on the end. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, it's one of those songs, isn't it? That Wild Thing, because it's by the Trogs. The Trogs have a special place in my heart because we went to Florida once and the Trogs were on the same flight as us, Reg Presley and one of the other guys.
Cool.
And Reg Presley was very nice to my wife, Caroline. They had a long chat about stuff, and he was really nice to her. So, Reg, you have a special place in my heart for being really nice to my wife. He's a really nice bloke. So, Wild Thing always has a special place for me because that's the association. But I think this, to me, this is kind of like the end song. It's quite slow, isn't it? It kind of it's not that quick. You'd expect it to be a bit quicker. Really heavy sound as well. It's like, if you want a sound, that's the sound. And then he does, it kind of dissolves into kind of feedback and wild drumming at the end, doesn't it? As a kind of, I don't know. I presume he wasn't lighting his guitar in the middle of that. It didn't sound like it, but it's not that long. But it sounded like a bit of that. I could light up my guitar at this point as a kind of end of show thing. But so I think, yes, it's the end of show thing without the lighting of your guitar to give it a bit of dramatic effect. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. But I wouldn't skip it. I think it's fine. 3 minutes, back to that fairly tight kind of, focused poppier thing. So, Mr. Walton.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for that wonderful story. And good to see Hugh. Can I ask you guys to check out Hugh's channel? He's a good friend of ours. He's been on the... No, he hasn't. I'm getting Hugh... sorry, I'm getting Phil mixed up with Andrew. Phil has not been on our show.
No, Phil's not been on the channel. Andrew has, yes. Andrew GB.
Yes, yeah. Good to see you, Phil. Wild Thing, interesting song, isn't it? Written by an American for the Trogs and given back to the Americans by an American, Hugh. So an interesting little story written by a guy called Chip Taylor, whoever that cat is. I didn't do any research.
Taylor.
I'm glad it's only 3 minutes long because I agree with you, Simon. If it was anything longer than 3 minutes, I think I'd probably skip it. And again, Hugh, I think you've hit the nail on the head with this track. I think it was something... There was some kind of visual component to it for it to be accepted by the audience back in the day, because sonically and sound-wise, the song isn't going anywhere for me. I'd go and listen to the Trogs version any day, Simon, of it. I think the Trogs, Wild Thing, ding, 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 ding. I think, it's pretty good. It's a pretty, and then when they break out into the ow, it's pretty, so.
I like the Trogs.
Yeah. No, not a good version, and we don't. Oh, well, look, we talk about the blues and we're talking about rock and roll, guys. Every song is a cover of someone else's song, so yeah. Look, look, I don't think I'd skip it, Hugh, in the context now of. I think I probably may have back in the day skipped this. I think I may have. But I'm only going to give this. I'll give it 8. I've got 7.5 here. I'll give it 8. I'll give it 8 out of 10 because I don't, because I love Jimmy. But I wouldn't skip it anymore, Simon. If it was longer than 3 minutes, I probably would.
Yeah, it's the right length, isn't it, for what it does? Yeah.
It's just John is saying in the chat. Sorry, Simon.
Yes, Montre. I was going to say, I was just giving a bit of interesting about Chip Taylor. Chip Taylor was most famous for writing Wild Thing and Angel of the Morning as well. It's a country song. Interestingly, he is the brother of actor John Voight. You know who John Voight is as an actor? Yeah, his real name is James Wesley Voight. There we are.
Oh, there you go.
Well, you got to be careful talking about John Voight because he's been cancelled. We don't want to get our show cancelled.
Oh.
We are merely relating history, Dr. Watson. I'm making no judgments about any Voight or not Voight, but just saying it is a matter of historical fact that Chip Taylor is the brother of John Voight.
And John makes a good point, doesn't he, Hugh? The Monterey version, yeah,
absolutely agree.
Yeah, it's a way better version, and we've ranked that.
Oh,
the goodies.
The goodies, well done.
The goodies. Goody, yum.
They did a good version. Well, yes. Well done, Mark. That's fantastic. It's a
nice one.
John's AD351. The Chrysler LeBaron. That was when Caroline, my wife, and I went to Florida for the first time. That's the car we had. Not that particular, but we had a Chrysler LeBaron. And we cruised Florida from the Keys to all the way down to in our Chrysler LeBaron, thinking we were the mutts nuts, and we were.
Thank you, Hugh, for joining us. So I said to you guys that we were going to talk about maybe some of our tone experiences. So a couple of weeks ago, I bought the Universal Audio Lion, which is basically a Marshall in a box. And there's a couple of interesting presets in there which are based on Hendrix versions or Hendrix tones. And I play that through my head rush with Hugh and Simon with my fuzz and my Univibe pedal. And I got to tell you, clearly, I'm hearing this. I'm getting some very, very good Hendrixy sounds. And I just want to follow up the point that you made, Hugh. When you compare the presets that they've put in that pedal, there's not a lot of gain. There's not a lot. There's a lot of volume and
compressed volume. Yeah.
Yes. But when you compare, say, the settings that they've got there to just off the top of my head, they've got a cream setting which has got a lot of gain. They've got a Jimmy Page setting which has gain. They have a blues breaker setting, and they've also got a free setting which has, by comparison, just a little bit more gain than the two Hendrix settings. So, and from when I was dialing them in with my blues breakers, that's exactly what I was getting, Simon. So and Hugh. So is that something that you guys have experienced when you've been trying to replicate that kind of single coil Hendrix tone experience yourself, Simon?
No, because I'm very bad at hunting around. I'm busy trying to play something that I can play. I'm not a huge tone hunter, to be honest. I haven't really particularly done a lot of roaming around trying to get a Hendrix tone. As I say, I'm still busy trying to work out what the bloody chords are and what order they should go in. What about you, Hugh? Are you very much on the tone for?
Yeah, well, I need to be for gigs, but the gain I find with Hendrix, the gain knob is not your friend.
No.
Too much gain.
No, absolutely.
Everybody uses too much gain trying to replicate
Correct.
stuff. And as
Yep.
you say, Andrew, his tone. If you turned the Marshalls down, and left or turned all the volume of the Marshalls down, his guitar would sound the exact same.
Yep.
Because he's got it the way he's setting it. So,
Yeah.
Hendrix is all about getting that just on the just breaking up clean tone and making it thicker, basically. It's not let's have this searing high gain, too many overtones happening kind of thing. So yeah, I would say dial on a just very either a heavy clean tone or a light crunch tone. Add your pedals and you're good to go.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
How many times have we heard that, Hugh? How many times have we heard people say, it's way less gain than you think it is? You know, I mean,
Big time.
AC/DC is the classic, isn't it? It's, it's way less gain than you think it is. It's about
Yep.
volume and about driving the amp, and it's not about that tremendous high gain sound. How many times have we heard that about Eddie Van Halen?
Almost every Led Zeppelin. If you hear the isolated guitar tracks, they sound really tinny, but that's what works in a mix.
Yeah. Oh, that's another lesson, isn't it? That what works well in a mix may not sound that great on its own. And how many times have I heard that said about Marshalls? They don't sound great on their own. You put them in a band context, and they really work.
If I'm working on a collab, right, and somebody wants a nice kind of Santana sound, say, I don't want to make it too Santana-y sounding because the bass guy will just drown me out. So I will always veer again on the brighter sound of that, the brighter end of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
in a mix, the bass and the drums will kill you. So
yeah.
So, so that's just something, folks. If you're watching towards the end here, if you've been with us for 1 hour and 45 minutes, we do appreciate you hanging out. And you guys that have been here with us live in the chat, as ever, we do appreciate you joining us. The Rock Professor is going to do a shout out. We're going to end the show soon. I want to remind you that we're going to have John ZD351 back with us next week, and we're going to be going through doing a classic Boss album.
Nobody else is rubbing their hands, but I am.
and we do look forward to that. And then we'll have Hugh probably back if Hugh's keen in another fortnight. Hugh's going to pick another album. We'll give Hugh.
Yeah, I would love to.
Oh, fantastic.
Fantastic.
We love having you, Hugh. We love having you on. Fantastic.
Thank you. That's cool.
So pick another album. And again, folks, if you are watching on a replay and you do want to join us, please let us know. We'll make some room for you. We want to invite you also, please, to subscribe to our friends. Great Vanzini is here. He's on our channels page, so go and check out Great Vanzini. Mark Tanner as well, another good friend of ours. He's on our channels page. John ZD351 is there, and also our co-host Hugh is there too. So, just make sure, folks, that when you're on social media, spend a little bit of time and share other people's channels and ask and invite people to subscribe, and it works. It certainly works. If we can get all our friends over to 1,000, it's the beginning of opening the door on YouTube, because getting there to 1,000 isn't easy.
No.
Sure, that's correct.
Yeah. So if we can get people towards that, that would be fantastic. Could I say, Phil, never would I have thought that we'd be discussing the goodies on
No.
I am pleased that we are, but I never thought we would, particularly.
All I can say is that aren't we lucky at our old age to remember this great British comedy, because you'll never get anything like that again with the political situation that defines what good entertainment is. But we got it all here in New Zealand because obviously, you know, 90% of our programs are British programs. So the two Ronnies, Coronation Street, Simon, the Goodies, we had it all.
I think you'll be pleased to know, Andrew, that they are held in great affection by comedians today.
Great.
You know, oh, they are. You know, the Goodies, the two Ronnies, all of that stuff is a. I was listening to something yesterday with Rob Brydon, and he has like a podcast, and they were talking about Larry Grayson, you know, who these days would not be, but you know they were, and by the way, they weren't slagging him off, you know, his type of comedy. They weren't, you know, they were talking about it fondly with affection and things. So I think that, you know, that there is a bit over here that is the mad place where everything gets cancelled and all that stuff, but you know, mostly people just laugh, but you know, it is some of it's a bit of its time and things, you know. But actually, as you say, I mean, I was just watching a two Ronnie thing yesterday about with them on a train doing the crossword, and Ronnie Corbett's being the most annoying bloke in the world because he can't do the sun crossword. It's like, you know, and
John's mentioned Kenny Everett. Kenny Everett as well, the Kenny Everett video show. That was risque. They had, oh my lord, you know, it was all good.
Yes, what
Porridge.
Cupid stunts? Yes, you get away with that. But I think you know that here, Hugh, I don't know if you agree with me, but all those comedy programs, they haven't been. You'll be pleased now, they've not been cancelled. They're held in great affection by,
indeed,
you know, comedians and audiences. They absolutely are, you know, and clearly we recognise they're a bit of their time, but those things, you know, they're still classics. They're still brilliant, and they're still classics. They're still really funny, you know. So I thought I'd please. That's
I love it.
So, something funny enough. Earlier on you were mentioning Reg Presley from the Trogs. I remember seeing an interview of him from about 1970. And typical West Country guy, he's really English, right, that way. So he says, I hear these guys saying, and they make all this psychedelic music, dropping acid and all that stuff. I wrote Wild Thing drinking a cup of tea.
Yes, if you, I'm sure if you've never heard them, then you need to go and search out the Trogs tapes. If you've never heard them arguing in the studio about fairy dust, then you have missed one of the great band comedy moments of the world. So it's not very long. It is very sweary, by the way, so don't play it in front of your kids. But if you want to laugh, just go and listen to the Trogs tapes, because they are absolutely hysterical.
Fantastic. Do you want to do a shout out, Simon?
I'll do a shout out. So thanks guys for turning up. It's been fantastic to have you. Lots of fantastic comments in the chat. And so Mark Tanner, fantastic. Phil S, Norwich Guitar, the Goodies. That's tremendous. John ZD351, fantastic. John, see you next week for Born to Run. That's just a minor album. Mark Tanner, Great Vanzini, fantastic for getting over 1,000 subscribers. Great Vanzini, that's brilliant. Who else? I've got Phil S. I've got scrolling back up. John ZD first. John. We had Johnny Heartbreaker drop by. Thanks, Johnny, for dropping by. Good to see you. Anthony Bowen. Hope you enjoyed it, Anthony, and good to see you. And if you ever want to come on and do an album like Hugh's done, we are open completely to that suggestion. You know, if you want to do something, it's great. Yes, great, Virginia. Anybody further up? Was Gretch around earlier on? Arvin, of course. Thanks, Arvin, for dropping by. We'll just miss anybody. That's the trouble, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, Gretch Zeppelin. Thanks, Gretch, for dropping by. And Christopher Livesover as well. Hope you're well, Christopher. Thanks. Phil Byers. A few people at the top. We probably sent them to sleep. It's a good idea. So thank you so much all for watching and sticking with us. Thanks so much for all your great comments in the chat and things. And we'll see you next week for more of this nonsense with Born to Run.
Hey,
take it away, boss.
Lovely.
Now it's time for Brad's Tech and Tone Tips.